Hey everyone, welcome to the first BIM user group for Western PA. I know we'd love to start doing these in person, so forgive us for the first one while we start to figure out the virtual side. We'll try to make it interactive and just want to kick it off with some, timely stuff. Revit 2022 just came out. Love to highlight that, but also find a way to start engaging with everybody and really build out this community. So as a reminder, we are recording this. We're going to put it up on our meetup page. We're going to figure that part out and get that going. So if you guys have a colleague that wasn't able to attend, want them to see this, have at it. We'll put that link out and share it with you guys. So as I stated, I'm Joe Whitney. Let me move this over to this screen. That way I'm not steering off in the distance. I'm Joe Whitney. I'm the guy that's trying to get this all going for the BIM user group here. I know quite a few of you guys on this call already. Loving the attendance so far, the people that are trickling in right now. Look forward to getting these live in person, get a beer in our hands and start building out our local BIM community. Dave, it's not letting me advance your slide. Can you just go ahead and do it?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, perfect. All right, so today, in addition to, the presentation, we want to kind of kick this off formally and, welcome everybody to this user group. We're going to be doing a raffle, so all the people that attended at the end of this, we're going to do this. We got this little spinner wheel. We'll spin. Somebody will get $50. We'll do that here shortly after this this web call, and we'll record it, send it out to people. We'll give a little bit of intro about myself and why we wanted to start this user group. Next slide. Oh, there we go. All right. So Carlos and Rich and all you guys on here, you guys know me a little bit, but quite a few names on here are new to me. I'm a little bit of an everything guy. I'm a little bit of a all over the place as far as the construction technology. Just a little bit about me and why I wanted to start this user group. PA is now my home. I am not from here. I'm not a local. Sorry, guys, but I'm kind of a nomad. I've lived in Massachusetts and Texas and Oregon and Tennessee and Iowa and just all over. But I live here now, called PA my home for about a year and a half, actually coming up on 2 years. I know it's a surprise to some of you guys, but I am educated. I did go to college. And with that, I've got, I say 10 plus years, so I don't have to date myself here. But I started, in my youth building houses for Habitat for Humanity. A buddy of mine bought some land in Texas, and we started building sustainable off-grid houses out of shipping containers. Started in land survey and construction layout. I was actually sold into construction layout. I hadn't really given construction anything in this space any thought as for a career, but this surveyor, I graduated with a GIS degree, surveyor approached me and said, hey, here's the bell curve. The surveyors are this age, this is how much money they make. Would you guys, would you be interested in coming in and making this amount of money? I mean, look, these guys are 60, 70 years old. They're going to retire soon. But what he didn't tell me is surveyors never retire. So just a little survey humor for those of you guys that know surveyors. So currently I am the territory account manager for TopCon Solutions store, but above and beyond that, I'm just a construction technology enthusiast. The gentleman that's presenting with me today, he is a co-host of the podcast Brewing with BIM, where we just talk about beer and construction technology. That's kind of our hobby. We, drink alcohol and talk cars and motorcycles and how to get more efficiency and whatnot out of tools and technology. So with that, let Dave Campbell introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Campbell. Thank you for the introduction, Joey. I am actually born and raised in the Midwest. I did move out to the West Coast a few years ago. So I grew up in Indiana, went out to Oregon, and now I'm actually back in Indiana. My education is a little bit more, it's a little different. I went to a community college, got my AAS in architectural design, design technology, with a a technical certificate in robotics and automation. So kind of taking advantage of what I could while I was there. Now, my background, I have I say 12 plus years experience in the AEC industry. It all really started for me in high school when I got involved in building trades. And kind of from there, we started building, houses for our high school that we would actually turn around and sell, and the proceeds would come back into the program. And I thought that was very awesome that we did something like that. And after that, I kind of got, more involved with the construction scene with different construction jobs, and then went into the Army as an engineer, where I constructed or helped construct new FOBs and COBs, forward operating bases and combat outposts or outward bases throughout Afghanistan. And then kind of came back, did a little bit with the union carpentry, and then found my way back into design again. So I got my certifications to be a Autodesk Revit certified professional for architecture, structure, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And as of right now, I currently have 4 years as a Autodesk certified instructor. Now, Joey does call me a Revit extraordinaire, but I believe that I am just a humble brewer in the world of what is BIM. So I'm still kind of learning my way there, getting to be that brew master where I know all the different, flows of software that we can kind of mix together here. And as Joey mentioned, I am the other portion, so the other co-host of Brewing with BIM. Thank you guys for having me on.
The better half, right?
No. I think we have a pretty good, half and half kind of coming together to make a power duo.
Yeah, and guys, I apologize for the structure of this event. It's more presentation driven. We want to get to this collaborative, interactive environment. Really pushing for some in-person events. Fall, we'll see what happens. So, I've been approached several times why a user group, and before I click through, let me explain something to you guys. In the Pacific Northwest, where Dave and I lived for a few years, you just moved back to the Midwest. I moved here about a year and a half ago. Even when I lived in Texas, user groups were prevalent. They were a way for everybody to share information. If you were new to something, it was a great way to meet up with more experienced people, start a conversation, and almost a I don't know, like an impromptu apprenticeship. And I love user groups for that. I love sharing information, just the environment of it, just the dynamic of just interacting with people. And that said, in the Pacific Northwest, Dave, you and I hosted I don't know how many user groups, and then across the country we did this thing called tap tours, and we went to visit different cities and hosted in breweries all across the country. But with that stuff though, like we got a kind of microcosm of an environment. Like we were creating like a mini AU of sorts. Like alcohol was free flowing, which is definitely key when we're talking about AU. But there was also like great construction technology happening, conversations happening. So that was always great. But the reason why we wanted to bring that here is because honestly, and you click the next one, my man, this is the best city. Hands down. I've lived in like a dozen cities, and Pittsburgh is it's got its quirks, but I love it. It's pretty kick-ass, and I can say that this is a user group, right? It's great. So I love being here. It's been about 2 years. COVID definitely took up one of those years, but I've got to interact with some great people. We got and if any of you guys want to join, we'll have this conversation later. A few of us meet up. We have a monthly, well, usually every other month now, but we're trying to work back to get monthly BIM CAD manager meetups. There's a group of us that just go to different breweries, and yeah, this is perfect slide. We want you guys to get involved. This isn't our user group. We're just help getting this running, but ultimately we want to get a committee team going. We'd love to have a repository of ideas for topics. presenters, if there's somebody that you would love to present, or a topic you would love to present yourself, or just a workflow you have a question about, let us know, and maybe it's something we could figure out and get there. And as we move, this is forward thinking here, but when we get to in-person events, we'd love to get to a place where we can have meetings held at different locations around the city. I'm partial to the north side because I live on this side, but maybe we'll get some south side works, or even further south areas going. Just let us know. I see Chad Petit, you're on here, man. You're a little further north. Maybe we'll do like an Erie brew pub or something.
Sorry about that.
Uh,
I was going to say, just to add to Joey's kind of spiel there, like I really love user groups as well. And this is again why we wanted to come on and do this, because it is a very important thing to be able to come together and share this data for our industry, right? To be able to help each other excel in learning some of these different workflows, some of the different products, how they're used, or just the products that you're currently using, how can you use it better? So we love for anyone to get involved and give feedback as well. If you guys have questions, if you want to be more involved, or if you just want to see some certain workflows or certain things, reach out.
cool, man. I think we've taken up enough time talking about us and why we started this whole shindig and whatnot. But this one, Dave was happy enough to jump in and talk about Revit 2022. I'm not sure if everybody here has jumped to it yet or is looking at it, but there's some cool enhancements. In fact, there's way too much for us to talk about in the allotted time. I made David cut half his slides. We're going to spend some time in the program, and a lot of time, just for the sake of the time, we're going to show you some stuff on slides, but there are quite a few enhancements. If you guys have questions, by the way, feel free to type them in the chat. And if we don't get to it during this call, we'll definitely follow up afterwards, and want to make sure everything gets answered. And I'll shoot a follow-up email afterwards. That way, everybody has my contact information, and we can get this user group rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Thank you, Joey. And as he said, there were so many feature updates to Revit 2022. I had a hard time kind of cutting them back in certain parts, because I didn't want to be discipline specific. And as Joe kind of said there, if maybe you see something, I mean, I've included a lot of good, let's say, features in here. I'm going to demo out quite a few of them, but I have a list of all of the different features that I'm going to show towards the end of my PowerPoint here. And again, if you have any questions on any of those features that maybe we didn't cover, feel free to reach out. So starting out with what's new in Revit 22, we got to talk about the key themes. So Autodesk typically breaks down the features into these different themes known for, improving design productivity, interoperability or collaboration, documentation efficiency, so your schedules, tags, annotations, things like that, and then the developer tools. So what's new with Dynamo, right? Now, again, some of these I'm not really going to go too deep into. I don't want to do the whole death by PowerPoint, so I will kind of jump in and out of the PowerPoint into the program. So let's get started with the design productivity. The first one that we're going to see, I'm actually going to dive in and show you guys this one. So the wall enhancements. One cool thing that you're going to see is that we've got the ability to now specify that we can have tapered walls. You can actually specify the sloping angle for your interior and your exterior surfaces. You can override that type slope property at the instance level, and then edit your profile for slanted walls if you needed to. Now, what happens when you do that, essentially, you'll need to make sure that if this wall is going to be, let's say this one right here, if this wall is going to be tapered, anything like that, we're essentially going to scroll down right into Revit, and you're going to see the cross section here in your properties. This is where we can select tapered, we can select vertical or slanted, and this is where I can specify my angle. So if I wanted, let's say, a 6 degree on the exterior angle, I can hit apply. And it's gonna now let me know that one of my dimensions has become mute, but there we go. So now we've extended out the bottom portion of our wall. Now, as that was saying there with the slanted, if you want a slanted wall, you can, of course, adjust the angle from vertical, and then, of course, the vertical wall, we can select any one of these. Now, an interesting thing I haven't shown yet, and this is kind of behind the scenes here, one of the things you need to think about if you're going to use a tapered wall is that one of your elements, at least the core or one of your parts of your assembly in your wall needs to have a variable thickness. This is an important part. So this is kind of editing that profile for these different slanted walls. We need to make sure that they are variable in order to kind of adjust as they need to. All right. Now we do have enhanced RPCs for realistic views. So just another kind of rendering improvement, right? Essentially, Revit is supporting the new RPC 2.0 file format, which really just helps to display complex, high-resolution geometries, your physical-based materials, and your lighting, and then essentially giving you more intelligent, parameters. You have asset parameters that you can essentially assign and utilize for these to kind of improve the performance of your realistic views, with options to switch off your different RPCs in the model or display the orientation in a billboard mode towards the camera, so adjusting those views, okay? Now, another one that I'm going to jump in to show, because I thought this one was really neat, this is a route analysis tool. So this helps us to visualize the multiple ways occupants can move in and out of a space. If you have a one-way, so with COVID, we've dealt with, at least at the beginning, a lot of grocery stores, things like that, trying to get into, controlling traffic through the building and being able to specify, okay, these, are going to be one-way. So we needed to go ahead and make some of those, what were they, life safety travel kind of maps, or even just maps for navigating the stores themselves. Now, this is also going to allow us to place elements with built-in clearances. So if we know that a person needs 5 foot or 6 foot of spacing, right, that social distancing, we can go ahead and essentially place a person with that built-in kind of distancing space. And then we can overlay spatial grids into rooms to aid with the element distribution, so to kind of help abide by those physical distance requirements. And I'm going to jump into Revit for this one as well. I'm going to go ahead and get into, where's my life safety plan? Let me find this one. I should have opened this up already. Oh, there it is, fire evacuation plan, that's fine. All right, so you're going to see essentially I've already kind of drawn one up here, and this is kind of what I was talking about. Here's the one-way indicator. Here's one of those people that we can actually put with a, let's say, 6 foot distance. Now, to draw these out, it's actually pretty awesome. They've made it quite easy to do this. We go to the Analyze tab, and here's where you can go with the path of travel, right? Now, if you have multiple paths, you can select that as well. Here's your one-way indicator, the people content, and that spatial grid. Now, what's nice about this is if I know that I'm going to go, let's say from this room here, I want them to actually go out to this door. Typically, I'd have to draw it up, draw it over and then draw it back. This was 2 clicks, and it's going to essentially draw that path of travel for me. So to kind of do that again, I'm going to draw this here and I'm going to push it right along with this one. And you're going to see that it's going to join these 2 lines together and merge them here for that kind of one line of travel. Okay, and it's doing that automatically for us. Now, if you notice, just like right here, I need to probably add a point to bring this thing back a little bit. So I'm going to add a waypoint. And this really just means that you can kind of customize where this line is going or where they need to kind of go to. And you'll see it kind of grab that line here, so I could do the same thing here, or just say update it. And well, I need to pull it back here, I guess. So I'll go ahead and add that waypoint, and then I can bring this back the same way that I did the other. And it automatically adjusts for me. So those are very, very nice features, especially for drawing out those quick plans. Now, you'll also notice that we have some infrastructure enhancements. So they actually gave us a modeling capability for bridge and road categories. So they gave us the bridge and road categories there. And essentially, you can utilize a generic model family, and you can create a template essentially, and it can be assigned to that bridge and road categories and your subcategories, your abutments, your piers, different things like that. Now, these families can host rebar. They can be defined as cuttable in views, and now they can be scheduled and tagged. Now, you're also going to notice that they've also provided some small enhancements to aligning and stationing these. So you'll see that you have the flip controls to add to the alignment station label. The true start and end stations of your alignment are exposed, and your Revit API, if you want to automate some of that, bridge design, we can do that as well.
You're referring to Dynamo?
Yes, sir, I am referring to Dynamo. I apologize.
No, man, just making it a conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of full circle here, because what they're doing is they're giving us that capability. They've added into the developer tools, but the problem was, we'd have an issue connecting to some of these different families, and especially if we're wanting to break this down into, like it's showing here, peers under that infrastructure or under, that bridge family, or that, the template that you're using. But to be able to grab those elements within Dynamo with a natural kind of script and essentially start automating the layout of these different elements, kind of much like the array command, right? We can start setting that up and knowing where we need to set these up. It's going to help us produce, but also, kind of utilize these better families that are going to transfer over into other programs such as Inventor or InfraWorks, things on down that line. Now, you'll also notice they gave us the capability to rename the default shared site. So, I mean, I was wondering when this one was going to be there, to kind of, help with the confusion that we've had for quite a while in terms of naming the survey point or the shared site point. And essentially, right now, we can go ahead and rename this default shared site location in any template. Now, another improvement for more of my MEP folks, they have brought in or made some improvements to design to fabrication. One big thing I really like was the fact that the tool itself is a little bit more flexible, enabling the mapping conversion from your Revit families to fabrication parts. You'll notice that, yeah, it's actually showing it here in Revit 2021. I was dealing with this earlier today, where I would adjust my, design parts to fabrication, and my connections just, they don't come over. And then all of a sudden it gives me this message here where I have open connectors. Well, with Revit 22, they've kind of given it the intelligence to notice, hey, we need an elbow here, we need a T, we need a Y, and it's giving us that capability to go ahead and add in our tapered ends or what have you, and bring those elements in instead of just faulting out and telling us, okay, it's open, and then I got to figure out how many of these are open and where they are. Now, you'll also notice that you can connect your fabrication elements together in Canvas by dragging your connectors as with your design parts, and your fittings can be placed. And that's really going to be giving us more consistency with our different layout tools as we're actually drawing our pipe. And we can use essentially these different design line logics and things like that to send out to the CAD MEP, EST MEP. But you're also going to notice that Revit, they've actually improved the configuration reload process to reduce the number of elements that are checked out while you're work sharing, which results typically in a reduction of the time that it takes to process it, especially if you are checking out a lot of different elements, the time that it can take to update. It can crash sometimes. It's been known to crash, or at least take a while to process. So they've made some improvements to that, which is really nice. Now, another tool that we're going to see kind of focusing towards the MEP or HVAC, you're going to see that they've added some new functionality with the systems analysis in terms of the load and psychometric reports. So you're going to get more detailed reports and outputs and be able to explore those different results in I believe it's an HTML web browser. And essentially, after running the simulation on your systems analysis model, you can view that summary for QA/QC checks. You can go ahead and report and show a breakdown of your different load components, your totals for sizing of equipment, of course, that psychometric chart, and then detailed psychometric state point properties in printable formats. So you can also export this to GBXML if you need to consolidate it into that kind of CAD environment. Or I'm sorry, Excel environment. I don't know why I said GXML. Another addition that you'll notice is that they've actually kind of tying back to the infrastructure and the bridge and road workflows. they're adding some more family categories for equipment and your different building elements. They've actually expanded these out to include audiovisual devices, your fire protection, food service equipment, hardscape, vertical circulation, temporary structures, just different things like that. And essentially, those families can be assigned to those categories, be defined in cuttable, as cuttable in different views. They can be scheduled, tagged. It's just helping to really start, I guess, get into more of the phasing and kind of, well, breaking down of the individual elements of these models and these families, so we can schedule them out, or at least start phasing or planning, right? And plan a little bit better. Now, you're also going to notice that they've expanded the category list for MCS, and well, for your multi-category schedules and your material takeoffs. And really that just means when you're creating your multi-category schedule, you're going to find a few more categories and subcategories that are there to choose from. Okay. Now, modeling rebar. This is an interesting one here, because I've actually had some good conversations with Joey about this, because we talk about Revit families that are created. And
this is where they had like most of the enhancements. There were like 30 slides just on rebar.
Oh yeah, there were so many enhancements for structural, which I'm feeling pretty happy about, because I started out as kind of structural within Revit, and I'm seeing all of this kind of functionality coming over from, let's say, advanced steel, but also the rebar portion of it. In this instance, Joe, we were talking about families, and a lot of times you need to, or it would be great to be able to model in like an offset, right? Like an offset or a clearance spacing. In this case, that's what they're kind of giving us here, in the sense of anytime you're detailing your rebar, you can go ahead and give it if you know that your rebar is going to have ribs or something like that, and the real diameter of that bar, you can go ahead and specify that model bar diameter. Okay. Now, of course, the rebar constraints, your distances to the concrete cover, your bar geometry, the segment lengths, they're going to be computed using that model bar diameter parameter. So in that sense, it's just saying, like, if you want your cover spacing to be 2 inches and you adjust the size of that model bar to thicken it out, it's going to go ahead and drop that bar down to automatically place it where it needs to be. It just has that intelligence to be able to recognize that. Now, another one that's pretty cool is the fact that we can move rebar in a set. So typically, we just tab through it and try to select our different rebar path or our different sets. But with this, you can actually just grab the entire set without having to tab through it, or actually move or remove individual bars in that set area, path reinforcement, what have you, to avoid clashes with your other rebar, your openings, or any other elements, penetrations, things like that, while you're maintaining the logic of that rebar set. So that's the big portion here. You're actually repositioning, a single bar, taking away, making modifications, but it's still being tied to the overall set. Okay. Now, another interesting thing about this is that you can actually edit multiple sets or systems at the same time. So that's kind of interesting as well. If you're looking at a repeat detail inside of a footing, or a column, something like that, we're looking at some penetration holes that are common throughout, let's say, the first through the third floor, what have you. We can go ahead and grab those multiple sets and make those changes at one time. Now, this one I did want to show just because I thought this was really neat. And I don't know if anybody has well, before I jump through it, I guess I better talk about it a little bit, huh? We can actually utilize this new tool here to place rebar by just clicking 2 points. Now, for those of you who may have modeled rebar in the past, we did have this nice kind of tool where we could go through and essentially select your host surface, and then you select your start surface, and then your end surface, and then you want it to kind of travel through, right? Kind of giving us the capability to go ahead and model rebar through there. I realized I did not open my model, so I apologize. Let me grab this one up here real quick. Okay, I'm gonna overwrite, and that's good. Now this one's kind of giving it away over here. I am going to talk about those shared views here in a little bit as well. So we're going to we're going to dive into that, don't worry. But what I wanted to talk about within this structural model here, if I get under either structure or if I get under, steel, I'll typically see those rebar options. Now I can also, I think I might have froze up Revit here. I might have just opened up the wrong model. This thing's might be having issues for me. I apologize, guys. But essentially, when you click on your slab, we can typically.
It wouldn't be a webinar if you
we
didn't have technology freeze up on you. I feel like that's par for the course, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's it's not liking me very much, but it's always the live demos, of course. Well, essentially what we'd be able to do is when you click on that slab, we can click on that rebar tab that'll populate there. And it's nice because it really just, if I wanted to take rebar throughout this entire slab, I'd be able to click on the corner here and maybe a corner over here, and it would actually take and fill up this entire slab with rebar based off of those 2 points. Now I could also specify the number of like bars or that type, let's say the layout, if I wanted to use maximum spacing or maximum number or minimum spacing, things like that. So creating your basic rebar sets, but it's essentially giving you less picks and clicks to go through to populate, well, the rebar that's going to go throughout your element or your concrete. So since I can't, I'm going to check again just to see if this one's came up yet. And no. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here then, and we'll keep going until the next one I wanted to demo. So another kind of mention here back to Dynamo. You'll notice that we can associate our steel connections with different profile sizes, with multiple profile sizes. So if you create a library of your steel connections, you have predefined ranges of applicability that you can specify. So just like over here on the side, if I have a base plate that I want to apply to any of the 14 by 43 columns, but I also want to make sure that this base plate is applied to any W by or W16 by 26s. I can go ahead and specify that range of applicability, and it'll actually go through when I run my Dynamo script, or if I'm saying okay, base plate by ranges here in this kind of case, it'll run through and notice that entire range of columns that I have and apply those base plates for me. So it's really nice in that case of where if you're using different types, whether it's concrete or it's steel, if we're using different, types, family types. If we're using different family types or instances within the project, most of the time, you got to click on it and then you'll grab all those instances and then run it and then, go back again and grab the other ones. At this point, we could just include them all in one. Now, back to that categories. So they've made some category lists in terms of the sorting within your schedules. So we can actually break it down and filter by our category. And then you're gonna see that essentially we can just start the filter itself by the category and then break it down as we need to from there. They've also given us improved parameter identification UI, well, user. They've added some parameters in here for the user interface. And what we're going to see is that you can literally search the parameters by name. You can filter them by their properties. So if you're looking for, what parameter might be involved with something like a total length or system name, something like that, we can go ahead and start searching what parameters are involved with that. We can also use information in those tooltips. Those will, as you highlight or hover over something, that tooltip will pop up to help you identify the correct parameter to work with. This one, for any of our older Revit users, this one's actually going to be pretty familiar. I don't know if anybody remembers Autodesk.
Hey, we prefer the term senior.
my senior modelers here. back in the day, we had Autodesk Seek, and it kind of went away there for a while, became BIM Object, and we've used Revit City and all these other kind of sites that we were able to find to bring in content. But essentially, Autodesk has brought it back to Load Autodesk Family. And what that means is that it's just going to open that default content that's provided by Autodesk, and it's actually being accessed from a cloud-based repository. So you'll notice in the past few releases of Revit, they haven't been releasing the content as you install Revit. You typically have to go to another website, find that content pack that you want, download it, and then move forward with what you want, unless of course you're going from a completely custom library. In this case, they've thrown it up on the cloud, and they're giving you the capability to tie into that family data, hosted off that, or well, from that data hosted on the cloud. Now, you're going to see that there are sequential search facets that you can essentially add or display the criteria for each of these families. So as you start building your different categories or filters for these categories, you're going to see that you can just kind of break it down based off of the type, the category, or what have you. Now, another one that I was confused as to why it took so long, but I don't know if anybody here remembers back when you could not actually detach like a tab for your Revit models, right? If you wanted to, work in one floor plan and you switched to another one, it just overlapped it. You had to try to, WT or cascade your tiles to kind of see all of the different things you had going on. If you had multiple monitors, you'd stretch it over, stuff like that. Well, this is one of those other things that I feel like took a while, but I'm glad that it's here. You'll notice that they just give us the capability to resize our dialogues now. So some of those, the visibility graphics, the purge unused, edit text, things like that. You're going to notice before that they didn't really let you move them much. They didn't let you resize it. Now you can kind of reposition that as you need to. All right, now on to the next portion of this, design productivity. Now, with design productivity, Autodesk has given us a native 2D PDF export tool. So just like printing out to all of your other mainstream kind of PDF programs, you'll notice that it's going to be much of the same in terms of the PDF export dialog offers you your similar options to the print dialog, your ability to export the visible portion of the view or your user-defined selection of views and sheets. Your naming rules can be set up within your setup section of the dialog box, and you can use this to generate those PDF file names automatically based on your project or your shared name parameters. And then you can also choose to have the exporter detect output size and orientation automatically from the selected views and sheets. Now, one for all of my kind of landscape architects or anybody using Rhino here, you'll notice that they've added the capability to link Rhinoceros as 3DM files, but they're going to be linked in under the CAD format. But what you're noticing when we bring those in, those Rhino layers are preserved and controlled by the visibility graphics override. So it's kind of like when we were bringing in the CAD plans before, when you import in or link in CAD, you can go into your manage links and actually get into it and see the different layers to be able to turn them on or turn them off. It just means that your Rhino files are kind of going to do the same thing. So we can actually pull those in, turn specific things on and off, and then we can actually snap to your linked geometry in your projection views. Now, another one that I'm really excited about, because I've actually personally worked in this one, is the sketch, the improvements that they've made with Format Pro. So it says there 3D sketch and send to Revit. But of course, that's been something that we can do for a while now, right? We've been able to, export a, can't think of the file type right now, but you can export from Format, bring it into Revit as a mass, and translate some of that, the masses or the geometry there to walls, floors, roofs, things like that. But what we're noticing with Revit 22 is that they've expanded those functionalities to better integrate Revit with Format Pro. And what we're seeing is that you can translate those Revit elements back into a Format Pro session using the new 3D sketch functionality. So we can actually continue exploring, tweaking that design using those different intuitive modeling, tools in Format, and then send that geometry right back into Revit. But
I feel like Format is the most unutilized tool in the AEC collection.
Agree. I definitely, I can't agree with you more, dude. It's for me, I feel like this functionality that it has within format to be able to just push and pull. I've actually got my 9-year-old son and my 11-year-old daughter, just working on format, playing on format, right? They build their robots, or they build, buildings, they build their little houses, kind of like on Minecraft. It's a very intuitive program. And when you can get down to like the nuts and bolts of it, and then you start seeing how, your materials, your different elements are actually preserved coming over into Revit, and you can see them using those visibility graphics to turn on and turn off the CAD format, because this is actually the other portion I wanted to talk about as well. I did hide this
Well,
slide, but
well, when you get them using Dynamo with Format,
oh,
have
it's
them come
nuts.
over and give me a lesson.
Yeah, right.
I need
Dynamo
some
and Format,
numbers and
that's
educating me.
nuts. Yeah. I mean, so another portion of this, so kind of going back to that Rhino talk there, when we bring those Rhino files in, they're going to bring them in like a CAD format so we can control the layers and the visibility, through the visibility graphics. Essentially, Format's going to come in the same way. They've brought it in through I think it's an AXM CAD import, and it's doing the same kind of thing. I mean, it says 3D Sketch here, but that's to send it back from Revit into Format. When you're bringing it in, you will import this in. And if it is under that CAD format, essentially, again, you'll be able to control each individual like level or the different materials and categories of elements within Format, which is pretty huge. As knowing before, one of the problems of trying to bring a family from Format into Revit is that it loses the intelligence. But if we can send something from Revit to Format and bring it back and have it keep its intelligence, I think that's very, very important. Now, speaking of intelligence, the next portion of this actually goes into that as well with the IFC4 export certifications for architecture and your structural reference views. So what they did is they went in and got that certification for the IFC4 reference views, but it just sets the definitions and the associated Revit shared parameter definitions. They've been updated with the latest IFC4 PSDs, and it's really supposed to significantly improve the performance of linking in some of these IFC files containing elements with a lot of different parameters. And they've added the ability for your IFC exporter to pick up information from your site location regarding the geocoordinate reference in EPS G code format as required by IFC. Another cool feature, I know we're on it, right? I mean, right in between the different kind of oh gosh, I want to say workflows, but it's the supplemental kind of or symbiotic workflows. There we go, symbiotic. That's what I was looking for. We can actually send Inventor and make Inventor models or assemblies. You can essentially turn them right into Revit models. You can link these Inventor assemblies in, and they come over as RVTs. They have a nameable reference geometry, and you have persistent tags for your direct shapes. But it's pretty awesome because when you're linking these Revit models exported from Inventor, it incorporates the new simplify command to produce your RVT model containing only the components and the features needed for your Revit design. So this command has been combined in Inventor and added to the property panel. So it's easy to use, kind of one-click button, and to link that resulting RVT file into that Revit project. Now, when you're linking Revit into Inventor, the Inventor user references the Revit project in order to keep the building design intent model synchronized with the manufacturing data. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the mechanical engineering task to be performed in the context of the building model. And then when your manufacturing models are positioned and sized correctly, exporting the design as native Revit data is going to strengthen that project coordination and the review. Now, I know I kind of tied off to this one earlier, but new shared views, right? We have our 2D views as well as, let me get into Revit here. So if I get into my 2-1 base bid roof framing plan, so when I click on this, oh, that's right, I froze it up. Dang, do I have one? Ah. All right, well, you know what? Let me try and,
Time to do the dreaded close it, reopen it.
that's what I'm thinking, man. I was hoping that it would catch up, but I'm not thinking it's going to.
It's that Indiana internet you're on, man.
Yeah, right. Oh boy. All right. So I'm going to end this one real quick, and then I'll jump back in and get it going here. But essentially, we can create these shared views to share with any of our different project partners. And really, what this is going to mean is that, I mean, it's not even just project partner with somebody in Revit. That's where I really wanted to. I'm opening up 2020. I don't know why I'm opening up 2020. Sorry, guys. All right, there it is. That's the one I wanted. Yeah, I'm going to upgrade it. That's fine. But basically, when we create these shared views, it gives us the capability not only to just, oh, did I just open that up twice? Interesting. Okay. So it gives you the capability to share these views through, I don't know if anybody has used it before, but the Autodesk Viewer. And the Autodesk Viewer is going to be HTML web browser based. And really what it does is it allows you to go ahead and not only view those models, but comment and mark up on those results in that web browser. Now, the cool thing about this too is that it's actually going to connect. So it connects back to Revit. And kind of saw in that shared views I had before the crash there, but you can click on these shared views. It'll open up in the Autodesk Viewer here. You can place these markups and then they can see it right within Revit. And then you're going to see that you can actually, oh, I'm trying to scroll down like I'm in Revit here. You can actually, reply back and respond to these comments without placing more comments on the actual document itself, just by typing out different messages, and then resolve different elements. So this is actually under the Collaborate tab within Revit. And let me see if mine's opened up yet at all. Nope. Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and push through this one. We have kind of a limited amount of time anyways, but at this point, it's going back to kind of connect people who are involved in this process, the stakeholders who may not have Revit, who may not have, a license of something needed to mark up any of these documents. It gives everybody an easy way to go ahead and create these shared views, share them to anyone, and then give those people the capability to go ahead, find that, and then mark it up right through that HTML web browser. Now, another thing that you'll notice is that they've made cloud model improvements. So you'll notice that open cloud model, from file menu, this was back from, I believe, Revit 2021. We can open that right from the file menu. The unified cloud model initiates, under the user interface now. So you're going to see that docs essentially, right, will pull up under our home screen in Revit. We'll be able to see that Autodesk Docs and then navigate to that. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about with a cloud model improvement and the other kind of cloud improvements that you'll notice is that they've actually integrated the connection between BIM 360 and design applications such as Revit, AutoCAD, Plant 3D, Civil 3D with the issues capability. So if you've ever played with issues inside of BIM 360, or you notice that you guys have clash or coordination issues that you want to go ahead and mark, you can go ahead and create it not as a markup, but as an actual issue, kind of like a blip that will live inside of the model and can be connected into that Revit model to show everyone. Now, I would say that it is still only BIM 360 at this time, but it is coming to ACC soon. Now into design productivity. You'll see a added work set parameter for our work set, or for scheduling of work sets, right? So we can actually go through, filter, and schedule by our work sets, and then we can utilize the work set parameter in our material takeoffs, our view lists, our sheet lists, and our title blocks. Now, you're also going to notice that our shared instance parameters associated with categories now appear as available fields when you're creating a key schedule for that category. The key schedule filters compatible parameters that may be included as well. Now, you can also add shared parameters to the category when you create the key schedule, but the use of shared parameters in your key schedules essentially makes it possible for your key schedules to drive your geometry or control your visibility in your families. Now, when a key is applied to an element, properties assigned by that key become read-only in the properties palette. So essentially like establishing a template. And then Revit is going to indicate the status along with a tooltip for each parameter in that key schedule. So those parameters values are derived from that key value, and they will essentially display it to the right of that value. You can use these shared parameters in families and then include the shared parameter in a key schedule to control that family's geometry using that key schedule. They've also made several tag improvements. So when you rotate a tag in Revit, you might like to control the angle value precisely. The new angle parameter for tags found in your properties palette is going to make it easier to control your display angle of that rotated tag. Now, if you rotate the tag with the rotate command, the angle value is automatically calculated, but you can enter a specific value afterwards if you like. Now, you'll also notice the multi-leader tags. If a view in your project contains similar elements that you may prefer they share a tag, you can now apply a single tag to multiple elements and even indicate the total quantity if desired. Now, once a tag has been placed in the model, you can add or remove those leaders to similar host elements at any time by selecting that tag and then using the add or remove host option in that contextual tab of your ribbon in Revit. Now, when you do this, the quantity of those host elements is automatically tracked and displayed both in the tag itself and in your properties palette. So you also have access to snap to specific points to modify where those leader lines are going. This is a nice one too. If you have elements that are tagged from your link models, they've made improvements on the behaviors of those tags in those hosted models. And what you'll notice is that they'll now remember the linked element ID. So if a linked file is unloaded or out of date, the tag may be orphaned. However, when you bring a new file in, so when you reload that linked file, the tag will attach to that linked element automatically because it remembers that ID. Now, you'll also notice that we can add custom dimensions containing prefixes or suffixes. But the nice thing about it is that they've brought it out into the kind of type properties. Now, previously, you could only add the prefix and the suffix values to the individual instances of a dimension. Now, it does, save us time there, but essentially when we do it in the type properties, we can go ahead and associate that throughout a whole line of dimensions if we needed to. Now, you'll also notice that we can add spot slope labels and elevation markers on your ramps or your ramp runs in plan, elevation, section, and 3D views. Another nice one is that we can actually get in, we were talking about the core layers or the different ways to make a wall, taper. We had to adjust the thickness to make the material variable essentially. But in this case, if you wanted to show maybe just only the wall core, so if we wanted to break down that wall to just show the core, we can do that by just really using the parameter in visibility graphics dialog box to deselect those non-core layer options that are, it's going to be under the subcategory of walls there to display, your simplified representation of your walls in your 2D views. Now,
Hey,
this
Dave,
one, yes, sir. We're kind of
you've
going
got
over.
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've got so many slides here. Yeah, sorry guys. There's a lot of different things here, but essentially, I'll go over here to the end. We still had too many. I apologize. But
and we cut this in half too, man. This was there was just so many enhancements to 2022. Maybe what we do is we figure out, or maybe what we'll do is we'll just share this with people afterwards. We'll provide this in a follow up or put it on our meetup page or something like that, where they'll have access to these slides with the different, the multitude of features and improvements here.
Yep, I agree. Now, I know we went over a little bit, so I do apologize, but do we have any questions that anybody wanted to see? Okay.
Yeah. I've been doing my best to field these to the best of my ability, but so I'll start off. Jordan said, is this different than the BIM 360 issue markups, and does the person making the markup, hold on, let me make this bigger so I can read the full question. Making the markup need to have Revit to access the HTML link or mark it up?
No, okay, so it's not like BIM 360 in that sense, no. For the markups with shared views, it's literally placing them in the Autodesk viewer, which is, I mean, in somewhat like the BIM 360
But
workflow where you go into the,
they can't mark it up with the link. They can only
no.
view it, right?
Well, actually, no, they can mark it up with the link. The Autodesk viewer has given them the capability to place a markup in it, things like that. So they can place markups in the
Just
viewer and then
just
push
not
it
an
back.
issue. Just not an
Yeah,
issue, I
not
guess. Yeah.
issues. No, sir. Yeah, no, not issues. It's just markups.
All right. And then I'm not sure because I feel like there's two names here, or maybe it's one really long name. I apologize. But I'm going to call you Joe because my name is Joe and I like it. You are he's a landscape architect and he's looking at plugins to create the freeform terrain. Are you aware of any workflow to get this, or is this maybe a
Yeah.
conversation for us to have later on?
Well, I mean, this is definitely, I think, a conversation that we can jump into in depth later on as well. Feel free to reach out for it. The initial that I would say is that there are going to be several add-ins out there to help you with that free-form terrain creation. But also, if you're looking to stay within Revit, I'd be looking at, does this information start, within Civil 3D? Does it start within AutoCAD? Do you have a 3D surface that we can start to transfer? Because we do have some native tools within Revit that will do that automatically. But again, going back to it, there are several add-ins that will kind of allow us to tweak how it brings in the surface and what all it brings in. So if you're curious about that, we can definitely have a conversation about that.
Perfect. And then another one Joe had mentioned was if a partner works in ArchiCAD, this is specifically referencing IFC, when he exports the file, what features are lost? And, I think it's all in the way the data structure is structured. And if they have smart IFC capabilities, all that sort of stuff.
Yes, it's going to be
Uh,
all in how it's structured as well as the export settings that they go into.
yeah.
When they do go to export to IFC, they will want to check those standards and kind of see what settings are check marked or what IFC version they're going with. And then also double check the little, typically there's some check boxes or different settings underneath that you can set for, the intelligence of the elements that you're going to send, what all you're going to send, things like that.
Yeah, and I guess going along with that though, I mean, there's a little bit of information that does get lost. Maybe not information, but features, right? The ability to edit geometry in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff gets lost, but there are always plugins and workarounds and all that sort of stuff. And I guess ultimately, love to have that conversation and share that information. Maybe that's something we talk about in another group session, or I don't know, we'll send as much information as we can over to you and see if
Yeah.
we can find something to fit your needs, or get you in touch with somebody else that's in this user group that already has some information.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right? We're here to bring each
Yeah,
other up and share this data. If any of you are currently doing any of these things or working with these things, of course, we'd love to have anyone reach out and share that.
somebody mentioned a tool, and I want to look it up real quick before I reference it. Something about parallax team. Let's see. Foreground for Revit. Somebody mentioned. Oh yeah, create modified topography. I can't even say that word. And I have a geography degree, um, so I apologize. It looks like it might help out in that front as well, as far as creating the terrain. Any other questions? Anybody have anything else? I see no hands raised. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to the first ever Western PA BIM user group. Hopefully the next one is in person. I think it will be, but stay tuned. We'll update some information, and to get in touch with anybody, just go to the Teams, the Meetup. Sorry, not Teams. I spend too much time on Microsoft these days. And the Meetup, there's the link. Thanks, Dave. You can get in touch with the members, ask us questions, and we'll try to engage as much as we can through there. I'll provide my email information for anybody that wants to volunteer. I'm going to send an email afterwards. That way you guys have my contact info. And we can start planning next future events and hopefully start hitting on things people want to see. And maybe we'll throw out some surveys and for next topics and meetup ideas and that sort of stuff. But really looking forward to building out this community.
Yeah, and be sure to pay attention to social media, guys, because we will be doing the member drawing for that gift card, I think, towards the end of this, right, Joe? Or after this?
Yes, so I think we're gonna do that Friday, maybe. Um, we'll do a recorded drawing, live drawing, and we'll post that on social media. And obviously, we'll reach out to the winner so that way you don't have to pay attention to our social media in hopes that you missed it or made it or whatever. And as far as feedback, we want to make this an interactive group. Obviously, virtual presents some hiccups for that, so I apologize for that. But in the future, really looking forward to some in-person events and just building out the community, like I said. All right, with that, I bid adieu.